What are common GED science data interpretation questions? Imagine you're looking at a puzzle where pieces are data, and your job is to put them together to see the full picture. That's what data interpretation questions are all about. They show you information in charts, graphs, tables, or diagrams, and ask you to understand what it means. These questions test your ability to read data carefully, analyze trends, and draw logical conclusions. In GED science, especially in life science topics like cells and organisms, these questions are very common. You might see a line graph showing how a plant grows over time or a bar chart comparing different animals' populations. Your task is to figure out what the data tells you. For example, you could be asked to identify if a trend is increasing or decreasing, or to compare two sets of data to see which is higher or lower. Another common type involves understanding experimental design. You might see a table with data from an experiment on how different factors affect cell growth. The question could ask you to identify the independent variable, which is what the scientist changes, or the dependent variable, which is what they measure. Recognizing control groups or understanding how the experiment tests a hypothesis is also important. Calculating data is another key skill. You could be asked to find the average of a set of numbers, calculate a percentage increase, or interpret rates from graphs. For example, if a graph shows enzyme activity at different temperatures, you might need to find the temperature where activity is highest. In life science, data interpretation questions often involve biological data. You may see diagrams of cell structures and be asked to explain what each part does. Or you might analyze data on how organisms respond to environmental changes. For example, a chart showing how a population of bacteria grows in different conditions. Making logical conclusions from data is another big part. You might be asked to predict what will happen next based on a trend or explain why a certain pattern appears. For example, if a graph shows that a certain organism's population drops when pollution increases, you could conclude that pollution harms that species. Sometimes questions involve using formulas. You might need to calculate the density of a cell or the work done in a biological process. These questions test your understanding of how to apply basic math to scientific data. Getting ready for these questions means practicing different kinds of data analysis. Look at graphs and tables, try to understand what they show, and practice explaining the data in simple words. The more you practice, the more confident you'll be in answering these questions on the test. Remember, the goal is to understand what the data means and how it relates to cells and organisms in life science.